Good morning, class, and welcome to Microsoft Excel. Excuse me. We're going to be working on assignment 3. This is from the Calculating with Formulas and Functions, and we're going to be doing case 1 on page EX185. And EX, let's see, we'll make sure that we're doing the right one here. Case 1, EX184 and 185. 184 and 185. Case 1 problem. This is the Hernandez family. Alright, so let's walk you through. The first thing we're going to look at is the rubric. Alright, there's 25 points available on this. We're going to need the name, date entered. We're going to change our budget sheet B7, row 23, row 24, 26, 37, 38, 39, B10 through B19, B20, row 41, E6, and we're going to use the famous goal seek, which if you do not know what goal seek is, it is a wonderful, wonderful new addition to the Excel family. Feature that automates the trial and error method by allowing you to specify a value for calculated items, which Excel uses to determine the input value you need for each of those goals. Now this is great for both looking at budgets, saving money, setting amounts for trying to lose weight, anything where you have a goal, you can use goal seek. It is fantastic. So make sure you familiarize yourself with goal seek. Alright. First thing we're going to do is we're going to go through it just as a student. As always, this video is a how-to walkthrough over the case study. I'm going to walk you through exactly as a student would do it. I'm going to work it as a student, so going step by step. Alright, so first thing, I'm going onto my Blackboard. You can see I'm logged in as a student, and we're on assignment 3. So download my zip file. You can see I got my case 1 and my tutorial files. The rubrics are inside. And I'm going to move this Hernandez file over to my desktop to work on it from there. Because as always, as you guys should have learned by now, I like working from my desktop. Okay, so we're working with the Hernandez family today. Well, while I'm talking, might as well show you my pretty face. Alright, we have Juan and Olivia Hernandez, are a couple, and Juan is in graduate school. Olivia is the manager of a local bakery, and they want to use Excel to help with the family budget. So right now, we know that we're working with a budget. Who the participants are, not that big of a deal, but budget means financial. Financial means financial functions. And we're going to need help setting up formulas and functions to project their monthly expenses. Project monthly expenses. That means we're going to estimate expenses on into the future, possibly into the past. We want to project the budget. And we're going to meet their financial goals. So we're going to use goal seek. I know because they have a goal, we're using goal seek. It's a finance, we're using financial functions, and it's a budget, so we're going to be working with the budget. So step 1, we're going to open up our Hernandez budget. Alright, so it looks like we only have 2 tabs to start off with. We'll see if we go into any more from that. We got some blank stuff on budget, final, calculated value up here. Your total as over here is incorrect. Looking down here, we have totals missing. Juan and Olivia's salaries are gone, and our functions are all blank. So we have a lot to create on this tab. Alright, so step 2, go to the documentation sheet and let's enter our names. As always, don't forget to put this in. I'm Mr. P, and today's date is 10/20/2014. Always put your information in on the documentation page. Sometimes when I download, and I'm grading these, if I downloaded one and it somehow pops up and I'm grading it, I'm going to check the name. And if it doesn't match you, I'm not going to give you a grade. That saved a couple students because I make errors every now and then, and I gave them the wrong student's grade. So I was able to check the documentation and continue. Alright, so on step 3, we're going to go to the budget worksheet and then cell B7. So we're on our budget worksheet, cell B7. We're going to calculate the couple's total monthly income. I like sum function here. But you can also, because it's only 2 numbers, do an addition. So I'm going to do equals B5 plus equals B6. All right. We're on to step 4. In row 23, we're going to use the autofill to replace the numbers 1 through 12 with the month abbreviations January through December. So we want January, February, helps if I knew my months of date, March, and then we're going to use an autofill here. And just take that straight across. Now you notice how I typed a few of the first ones and then clicked on the bottom square and dragged it over. If I would have just dragged March over, it makes this error every now and then, would have just copied everything to be March. But because we copied all 3 of them or whatnot and dragged them over, it saw the repetition of the pattern and filled it all in. Okay, we're on to step number 5, and we're going to be referencing rows 24 and 25. And the big thing here is we're going to be trying to put in the estimates of their salaries for both Juan and Olivia. Now we're going to be using what's an absolute reference because we're going to do a copy over here. So for Juan's salary, his salary monthly is about $23.50. Now what I want to change, because you can see it has just B5, if I copy this over, I'm going to get some errors here because it changed from B5 to C5 to D5 to E5. As I copy it over, it just copied the next cells in reference. So I want to do an absolute reference. So delete those. And I'm going to modify this, and I'm going to lock things into place using the $sign. So it still comes with the exact same amount, $23.50, but now when I copy it over, it stays $23.50. And let's just copy that across the whole board here. Now let's do the same thing over here for Olivia's salary. We're going to be equal to Olivia's salary, and we're going to use an absolute and lock it in. Just remember that an absolute reference is a cell reference that remains fixed. It means it does not change when it's copied. Without that $sign, it can be modified as it's going through. Okay, now let's copy hers over. Alright, so now this cell is always going to reference this cell. Cell C24 will always reference cell B5. Alright, the next thing we're going to be going on to is in in row 26, we're going to calculate the couple's monthly income. Alright, so we know it's a couple means 2. We know it's monthly income, so it's going to be a total that they earned in this month. So January is this column, February is this column, March this column, and we're working on row 26. So we're going to want this to equal Juan's income plus Olivia's income. Now if I did the absolute value here, it would be $5,500 all the way across, but because their value is going to change maybe some months, I don't want to do an absolute value or absolute reference. So I'm just going to copy and paste it across. Okay, we're on to step 7, and we're going to be entering formulas to calculate the total estimate expenses for each month. Alright, so we know that expenses run from 27 to 37, and the expenses are each month. So we need a sum for the expenses for the month of January, expenses for February, expenses for March. Now if there was just 1 or 2, we would use the plus symbol, but we are wanting to enter a formula. So I can either come up here to insert formulas, find whichever one I'm looking for, and then choose my reference points. Or I could have entered it by hand. Equals sum of this range. Make sure I'm only doing expenses, and if I open a parentheses, I close a parentheses. Alright, but now that those are here, I can actually copy this over. That way I don't have to do it by hand anymore. Alright, we're on into rows 38, and we're going to be working with the net cash flow. Just remember that net is your salary minus your expenses. So we're going to use the value we found in C26, and we're going to subtract our total expenses, which is going to be C37. And now see, I made an error here. Now I could look around and be sitting here staring at this trying to figure out what the error is, but if I click on the cell, come up and look, I can see instead of hitting a negative sign, I hit an equal sign. Alright. C26, okay. So it looks like for the month of January, they had a net loss of negative $5,000. So we can either grab the green square or hit Control C and copy it over. And let's see what they made for the rest of the months. You can see because I didn't use an absolute reference, it moved it up. So each cell is referencing its own unique column. Alright, our next step is going to be figuring out the running total. Now what a running total is it discovers how much they've saved this month in January, and in February we'll figure out how much they saved from February added to January. In March it will take January, February, March together. In April it will take January, February, March, and April together. So you can see it adds up each previous month and gives them a running total, see how their savings are coming up. So the first one, we're going to want to know what their savings are for this month. We know it's negative $5,000 because they didn't have any savings for the previous month. But I'm going to use a mixture of absolute reference and reference cells. So I want to reference this cell to this cell. Now you can see it gave me an absolute value, or a running total of $5,057 in the negative, which is the same as before. Now I want it to stay at that C38 to start with. So I'm going to absolute it so it doesn't move. And then I'm going to copy it over. And you can see that was C38 to C38 is the sum. If I copy it one over here it's C38 to D38. If I copy it again, here it's C38 to E38. And then we can just copy it straight across the rest. And by the end of the year, they're going to have about $5,000, $6,000 left over. Okay, our next step is going to be finding averages of the expenses over the course of the year. So I'm on step 10, and in the range B10 through B19, so that's right through here, we're going to calculate the average monthly expense by category based on the values previously entered in rows 27 through 36. So we're talking about the average rent that they paid across this entire year. The average phone, food rent that they paid out over the entire year. So this is not a sum, but an average. So we can either come up here to the insert functions and use an average. Now our range here is going to be for, this is rent. So it looks like row 27, and we want it for the entire year, and hit OK. And we're going to do the same thing for food, utilities. So we can either go through here and type them up, use our average function, insert the functions. Sorry, there we go. Then we want food. Alright, equals average, helps if I can spell, of, we're on food. It seems I made some type of mistake here. Remember, Control Z undos, or you can come up here and undo. So if you make a mistake, just back up to where you made the mistake and then start again. And if you open a parentheses, always close it. Now, I can go through here and do each one of these, and it makes a bigger chance that I will make a mistake. Or, as always, I can just copy and paste it straight down. Okay. Our next step is going to be on this cell B20. We're going to find our total average expenses. So realize we're not using an average function here. We are using a total, a sum function. So we got sum of. Sometimes I make mistakes just to see if you guys are paying attention. Alright, I'm going to go to my formula view so you can make sure you can see these formulas. The formula view is just control and your squiggle. You can see average C27 through average C36, and this is the sum of the averages. Our total expenses was B5 plus B6. Our salary was absolute value reference. Our net running total was a mixture of absolute reference and regular reference. Our net cash flow was our cash minus our expenses. Alright, I'm on to page EX185, and I'm on step 12. And for step 12, the couple wants to know what happens the couple currently has $73.50 in their savings account. Each month, the couple will either take money out of their savings account or deposit money into. In row 41, we're going to calculate the end of month balance in their savings account by adding the value in cell E5 to the remaining total values in net cash flow in row 39. So here's row 39. So we want to figure out. So if we're looking at this as just a regular budget, in January they overspent by $5,000. So we know their savings is going to drop by $5,000. So we're going to absolute value or absolute reference a cell. We got equals to E5 plus whatever our running total is. That should be C39. There we go. Alright. Now what happens if I don't use an absolute reference and I copy this over? I'm going to get these weird numbers that don't quite work. You see it's referencing E5 here, F5, G5, H5. We keep going, eventually we're going to hit some errors. Maybe not. But what we want is it to always reference our savings account balance right here of the E5. So we're going to start this with an absolute reference, and then we're going to change the numbers. You can see how the numbers are changing quite dramatically. So at the end of the year, instead of saving $7,900, they had $13,000. Big difference. The next step we're going to be going on is to cell E6, and I'm on step 13 in your textbook on page EX185. On EX185, we're going to try to create a formula, display the value of the savings balance at the end of December. So under E5, we want to know what their final savings is. We had initial savings, we spent or added depending on what each month, and then we had this amount of money that was there at the end of the year. So we're going to be, this is equal to E5 plus N39. Now see, I closed the parentheses, but I didn't open it. So I want it to correct it for me. Alright, so we have a total savings $73.50 to start the year, final savings of $13,272, and this is based on Juan's salary of $23.50, Olivia's salary of $31.50, and these average monthly expenses. This value of goal seek is the coolest tool that you guys will see, and one that's actually quickly and easily used on you on a daily basis. Say you're doing your budget, trying to figure out how much calories you want to burn off, anything that you want to set a goal for, this goal seek is at. Alright, so we have a goal for the Hernandez family where they want to save $15,000 by the end of the year. And we're going to do that by modifying Olivia's salary. And we can see this in step 14. One only would like to save $15,000. Alright, so our students had a phone call come through, had to answer. Alright, that was on the goal seek and how awesome it is. And so we're going to do a goal seek trying to find $15,000 by the end of the year by modifying Olivia's salary. Because she's going to ask for a raise at her job. So she's trying to figure out how much raise she has to ask for. So we're going to click on cell E6. We're going to come up here to your data tab on the ribbon. And we're going to come up to a what if analysis. Because a goal seek is a what if analysis. What if I get a raise? What will be my final savings? So come over here, do the drop down menu and choose goal seek. Now remember, the set cell has to have a formula in it. If it's just a number, the goal seek is not going to work. Alright, so our set cell is going to be E6. This is what we want to change, and we're going to change it to value of $15,000. And we're going to get to that value of $15,000 by changing Olivia's salary. Now I want you to pay very close attention to the fact that we have Olivia's salary is $31.50 here. It's also $31.50 on row 25 all the way across. Once I hit OK, her salary changes to $32.94. Hit OK again, and down here her salary changes to $32.94. It also changes her savings, her running totals. It changes the total salary per month. It changes everything. So make sure that when you do that, you do it correctly and that all your numbers change, because everything references everything else. Our final step in step 15 is we're going to save and close this workbook. And we're supposed to have saved it as Hernandez budget. File, save as, and of course I always like my desktop. And I'm going to name it Hernandez budget. And I'm going to put a 1 here because I have another one on my desktop that might screw with. Don't put the 1 on yours. Very last step, close it. Alright, you guys are finished with the case 1 now. It took me about 22 minutes, and that was with explaining points. Might take you guys as little as 15. If you're going slow, you don't understand, might take you up to an hour. Not too bad for a weekly assignment. Alright, last step, we're going to upload it to the Blackboard. So let's go back over here. We're on assignment 3. Click on it, browse my computer. Hernandez budget 1 is what I named it. Always leave me a fancy note. And submit. Alright, once it's submitted, you can see how many points it's worth. Remember, you should have submitted both your tutorial and your case study together. Hit OK and you're done. As always, gentlemen and ladies, if you have any questions, email, discussion, or call. Emails logan.phillips1@tulsacc.edu. My phone's 595-7451, or the best place to post anything is always in your discussion board. So make sure you go there. That way you can help your fellow students and get the discussion board question points, which are very important. Alright guys, good luck on that tutorial. If you need any help,